Hello people, this is question time from the 9th of November, which would have been last week. I'll finally get around to doing this one. So we will get straight on to the first question.
Is from Gemma Collins, please. Gemma Collins.
In light of recent events, can Theresa May still call her government strong and stable?
Well, the problem with Theresa May government isn't the fact that really it's nothing to do with her. That, as I've said in other videos, I truly believe that we're seeing Theresa May trying to turn the party around a bit. Because I don't think Theresa May ever agreed with the austerity program. That's the feeling I'm getting from Theresa May. But obviously the party is, there's a lot still within the party that believes Dave Cameron's path was the right one to go down. Use the debt as an excuse to keep pushing more and more cuts and to keep power. And that did work for him up until when his own party stabbed him in the back over the EU. Obviously Theresa May can't say she's in a strong government now because she's far from it. The only reason she's still in power is because none of the MPs, Tory MPs, wants to take the power. And what I find really hypocritical of the Brexiteer MPs within the Tory party, they're constantly on the TV shouting about Brexit has to happen, how great it's going to be and all this, but yet none of them's willing to become the leader to bring that vision to the people of this country. They don't want to take the risk because they know what they're saying is a load of crap and they're just trying to get public opinion to turn on democracy. They're lying. That's what it boils down to. And any talk about any reasonable agreements or anything like that, and they're going to Theresa May and they're saying, if you don't do this, we will not support you as the leader. And that's what Theresa May is doing. Theresa May is basically pleasing the backbenchers at the risk of simple logic. So she's pointless. She's a pointless leader, and I don't know why she just don't stand out. Why is she being so loyal to a party that's stabbing her in the back and laughing at her? I don't get it myself. I really do not get it. It is a very strange thing why she's being so loyal to a party that, as I just said, stabbing her in the back and laughing at her. And she's just becoming a laughing stock. Not just to our country, but to the international community. And if Brexiteers shouldn't want that. We need a strong government to try and get these trade deals set up. I mean, even though they're going to take years to set them up, we can have an intern set up with the basics, and then we can work through the more complex issues. But Theresa May and the government, it's the Tory party. The Tory party is in a complete chaos, and some of them's trying to fight the referendum repeat again. It's just chaos, and the quicker the Tory party is out of power, the better the country will be. Right then, I'll move on to the next question now.
Please, Neil Woodley.
Why hasn't Theresa May sacked Boris Johnson?
All right, it was the question, but why hasn't Theresa...
Well, that goes back on to the last question, really, doesn't it? Theresa May, to stay the leader, she needs the support of the whole party. But obviously, Theresa May has been pushed towards the Brexiteers because obviously that's the way the vote went. So she's got to play this horrible game where she cannot sack Boris Johnson because he's part of the Brexiteer group, and if she tries to sack him, then she'll have all the backbenchers who want Brexit. They'll probably turn on her, and then she'll be out even quicker. but it still goes back down to the basics. You know, Theresa May's not using the power she's got. There's no one else to replace her. And that's what makes me laugh. Theresa May is thinking, oh well, I suppose she's desperate to keep power, I suppose. I don't know. It's a very strange thing. She's got that power because there's no one else who wants to take over. None of the Brexiteers wants to do it. Gove might have another go, but he's a backstabbing person anyway. He might have the support of Boris Johnson, but I think Johnson should go anyway out of just principle, him being himself. He told a secret. He messed up on a secret. You know, telling the public a secret that is a government secret. You know, he actually blabbed it out because he probably read it in papers. And when you do that as a minister, you're not fit to be a minister. Trying to backtrack now is laughable because Iran's already seen it all and everything, you know. May should have sacked him the day after that because he cannot keep a secret, and the next one he tells might be an even bigger mistake and it could cause even bigger issues. So she should sack Boris Johnson and dare the backbenchers to try and overthrow her, because there isn't no clear leader. I don't think the public would like Gove because of what he did to Boris Johnson. So, you know, even if he becomes the leader, I don't think the public as a whole would particularly like him because he ain't got that character. He ain't got that likeable character kind of thing. So she has got the power, but she's just not using it. She's too scared to use it. And that's the problem with her, is she's just not a leader, I'm afraid. And she ain't leading. She's being led by the Brexiteer MPs to keep power, which means, in a weird way, Boris Johnson is already the Prime Minister, really. Just that he's not taking the downsides of it. He's just staying back, giving her little messages saying she's got to do this or she's got to do that, and she's doing it. Complete joke. And as I said before, the longer the Tory party's in power, this country is going to be worse off because of it. They haven't done a good job since 2010, and anyone trying to say they did is delusional at best. Right then, I'll go on to question number 3 now.
Aguirre, please.
Should wealthy individuals be villainized for legally making tax savings?
I think this is the question that went on longer, that meant there was only 4 questions altogether in this week's question time. It's a very complex question because in today's multinational business where they're making money in multiple countries, if you try and say to the board of directors or the CEO or whoever it is who's got the top job, or the people under him that does each country or whatever, they know that they could go to that government and they could say, right, we want these tax savings, and if we don't get them, we'll just close up and go to another country. And that's exactly what the wealthy does too. You know, the wealthy makes it clear to the tax office that if they don't get this saving passed through, then they will quit the UK and they will move to another country with a lower tax system. And that's the way it's worked. Until government starts all interlinking and actually working together, this will always be an issue, because every country would be willing to take the wealthy in from other countries. And that's all well and good if you've got the wealthy people coming in, but in order to get the wealthy people coming in, you've got to have massive tax costs to get them in here, so they're already paying no tax, and then you can't have the public services that a country deserves to have. You know, we deserve, humanity deserves decent healthcare that is not run by profit individuals that just wants money. You know, it should be run by the state for the people, because it's the people that votes the governments into power, and it's nothing to do with profit. Yeah, but sadly everything's to do with profit today, and I find it, to a degree, they should be villainized, because they are the ones making the final decision. You know, these wealthy individuals are being given advice by the investors or the experts, whatever you want to call them. But ultimately, they make the final decision, and I think there should be laws passed now. But then, what's the point? Like they said, you know, you've got so-called experts. One minute they're working on the government system, then the next minute they're going back off to their private jobs, knowing exactly how to get around all these new loopholes and finding all these new loopholes even before the policy's out. So, you know, I think that's one of the first things you've got to stop. You've got to say, but then if you say that and you only give them one monthly, like a job essentially, and they ain't allowed to take any other job in that particular, in the banking industry, they're going to want a massive payment, and on top of that, you know, they would probably want bonuses too, and the state, well, the UK system can't afford to do that. So we've just rent some out on a basis, get them to work out the stopping the loopholes. But by the time they finish that, they've already worked around loopholes around the new system, and as soon as it comes in, they've already got the new loopholes ready to go through. So, you've got to ask, is it the wealthy to blame, or is it the actual workers who in the financial system who's happy to cozy up to the wealthy people and help them get around paying millions of pounds in tax? No, the big question here should be about tax. You know, tax is seen as a nasty thing, but when you really look at tax, it's not. It is not a bad thing. It pays for a country to be civilized. You know, everything a public service does is for the people, to keep them safe, to keep them healthy, you know, and I just do not understand why the wealthy don't care about that. You know, it's a very selfish system they're in, because they don't really care about public services because they don't use them. They've got all their own private systems, and I know there's one part in London a few months back that was getting their own private police force. I just can't believe that. I think that's one of the first things that any government should tackle. They should say, well, no, I'm sorry, but we've got a public system, and everyone's part of that public system, if you like it or not. And I would make it massively expensive for private systems to get a foot onto our public systems, public services. It shouldn't be allowed, because that is the gap that's just winding up everything, and it's creating really bad public services. And then at the same time, the Tory party is on about selling off other parts of the public services, like the police force, and allowing the new G4S to have arresting powers. So we're going to get essentially security guards acting like police. I know the question wasn't about that, but that's the fundamentals of it. Is when the wealthy avoid tax, it creates nothing but chaos down the line, and the average worker and the poor and the disabled gets a really bad deal from it, because obviously the money ain't there to pay for the public services that the country deserves to have. And you know, especially since quantitative easing, the wealthy has become more wealthy, and it's all made complicated, but they have gained more wealth through quantitative easing, and it's disgusting. I like I said, ultimately, these wealthy people, some of them ain't the ones that makes all the money. They pay people. They pay people to look after their wealth. They're not the most cleverest people around, and I just think sometimes, I think in order to get them to pay, you've got to be willing. You've got to explain what the tax does, and some of them still won't care because they look on it. Well, I don't use that crap service because it's for plebs. That's how they look. That's how they look on it. Some of them, they never pay for that, and I said, well, that's fine, but you're gonna pay 5 times more going privately, because as a government, I would put so much tax on private healthcare, private everything. There'd be so much tax put on it, so the wealthy would be better off paying their tax to the government rather than paying for private services. That's how I would tackle tax avoidance. I know that sounds mad, and it will go back to what I was saying before. A lot of wealthy people wouldn't like that because they want to feel above the plebs who use public services. So you would probably get quite a few millionaires probably leaving. But hey, I'll be at the airport or wherever they are, kicking them out. I'll be like, yeah, we'll go, because you don't want to be part of this country. So fair enough, get out. You know, if you don't want to pay your part in tax, and you just want to split this country up into 2 separate groups, the wealthy having all their own private services and all that and loving it and getting the best of everything, and then the rest of us barely managing. Oh, well, I'll be happy to see a few of them go. If more, the more that goes, I think the better off in the long term that the country will be. Yeah, it'll be harder because there'll be less tax coming in, but at least we'll be all on a fair ground then. And obviously some would still stay in the country, and the tax that the private sector would, the private services would build up, would also help the public services anyway. So, but I don't think it's fair to go on a warpath for each individual, because some of them probably don't even know what the hell's going on. It's probably the workers, the finance people that's doing it all on their behalf. Especially with the Queen, like I'm saying, like that she knew what she's investing in half the time, because she's trusting the people whose job it is to look after her wealth. So yeah, so now I'll move on to the last question.
Question now from Nathan Langford, please.
As a 17-year-old schoolboy, how is it that I know how to respect women better than some of our government ministers do?
Yeah, this is about power. It comes back down to a simple difference between males and females. Males are actively looking for sex, where the females, they're not. They enjoy sex, don't get me wrong, but you know, it's that element of power in it. But that's the key part here. Is when you've got people whose career politicians and they've been in there for quite a few years, they start getting this power, I don't know, power edge, thinking, oh well, I can have what I want. And I think they use that to the best of their abilities to intimidate women. And like all this about women and all, yeah, you won't hear many women that's probably actually gone ahead and had sex with them. You know, these men don't learn by constantly being rejected by the women. You know, there's probably a percentage of the women that actually went ahead and had sex with them to encourage their behaviour. And that's one of the key things that nobody talks about. Because, oh no woman has sex with. No. A man does, you know, it's a simple behaviour thing. The men that's done it has probably had sex with a few women in the past. Just a one-off, like, you know, nothing like a relationship. It was just pure, he made a move and the woman probably accepted it, and they had sex. End of. No one was hurt. No one was physically hurt. Even though the individual with the power used his power to do that, if it was a willing agreement that they both wanted it, then I don't see. I suppose it is more complex, isn't it? Because obviously then that woman gets maybe more help from the person with the power. But that's what makes it so complex, you know. For every woman that probably disagrees and walks away from the man that made a move on her or tried to touch her body in ways she wasn't happy, there was probably quite a few other women that were happy to encourage that behaviour from the man, and that's how he just kept going on and doing it, you know. So, you know, that's the one thing is no one's really talking about is always, oh well, the men are really bad. Yeah, but they've had encouragement. It's a simple behaviour system, you know. They won't keep doing it if they keep being knocked down and being told no, I don't want you. You know, they will keep doing it until they get one or a couple, especially the older ministers. You know, I bet throughout their career as a politician, yeah, a few women probably said no, but then I bet there's been a lot of other women that's actually encouraged that type of behaviour. And we're not allowed to blame women at the moment because they're always the victim. You know, did those women that did sleep with that man, with the man with the power, are they taking advantage of him and letting him think that, you know, obviously they had sex with him, so straight away they've got that edge over other women that didn't have sex with him. So he's going to look kindly more towards them and giving them a promotion than he would to other women that said no to it. So it is a very complex thing, and any woman that says no, they should listen to that and respect that. But, you know, if a man's going to make a move on a woman, the woman needs to be clear from the beginning that she's not interested. You know, but then you've got that power element in it, and if a woman really wants to get up the ladder in that particular industry, how far is she willing to go to get that, you know, to get that power? So yeah, it's quite a complex system of human behaviour, I think, between the two sexes. I don't condone nothing by it. I'm not saying that the man is right, but I'm just saying the man does not get encouragement if he's not getting any to start with, you know. And there has probably been a few women that's been quite happy to have sex and then gain the advantage in the long term of getting a promotion or something like that, you know. It may not be nice to say that, but it's the truth, and sometimes the truth isn't always clear cut, you know. So then, I think there's only 4 questions in question time, so I will leave it there now, people. Thanks for watching. If you've watched all the way through, thank you very much. Until the next question time. Ta-da.